7A,
Bye.
acceptance notice.
It does pop up Google Calendar things and stuff on my phone.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like
Oh, I gotta give it to him on Saturday. $8.
I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Human Services Committee. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have the clerk take the roll, please?
Commissioner Samasco,
Here.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Here.
Commissioner Bone,
Here.
Commissioner Torello,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch,
Here.
Commissioner Beeden.
Present. Item 2, additions, deletions, and changes to the agenda. We see that there's an addition to the agenda.
I'll make a motion to put the contract approval request for Catholic Charities of Southeast Michigan as 7A under new business.
Support, Baldwin. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any citizens wishing to be heard this evening?
Not that it matters, but we need a motion to accept the amended agenda.
Sure. Can I have a motion
I'll
to
make that
accept the
motion.
amended agenda?
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. Citizens wishing to be heard. Thank you. This is Tim Parker.
What's the topic?
BOC complaint. Correct. Sorry.
Okay, by God and our founding documents, Mr. Arnie Coons has the right to be fully Christian on the Board of Health Advisory Board without infringement. My complaint was against the commissioners and council for violating many of his rights. To elect a recovered addict, commissioners shredded Arnie's character, his exemplary service was slandered. And my question is, will commissioners seek remedy for what was done to Mr. Coons to heal community trust? I doubt it, but I hope so. Here's my complaint in a nutshell. I've never seen anyone bulldozed in a 3-minute job interview like Arnie. Arnie ran a men's shelter in Port Huron for 13 years. With insufficient help, it closed for several reasons. I saw no personal or community respect for what I think was a political hit job. I sought a formal defense. None has come. I think protocols and bylaws were violated. Does anyone care? Anti-Christian, unconstitutional conduct was apparent to me and others. No complaint was offered against Mr. Kuntz's exemplary service. Was he removed because he wouldn't compromise his faith? It may look so. The message was practice Christian faith need not reapply for county service. Not good. Arnie's faith caused him to teach against addictions. And as I see it, both the BOH and BOC supports addictions. Arnie pushed for compliance as mandated reports weren't received for 5 years. Is he a whistleblower? A fentanyl epidemic kills many. I ask, does the public receive accurate figures? Mr. Kuntz worked to replace BOH bylaws, and yet Gary Fletcher might have stepped in to ensure Arnie's departure. His track record wasn't acknowledged until after the vote that I think was a done before it occurred election. A 2-seat increase was proposed. Why was Mr. Kuntz rubbed out? Contempt of Constitution violations were more than evident. I felt Arnie's Christian faith and character were assassinated.
You get about 10 seconds.
A first-class constitutional violation. The story of Humpty Dumpty compares because it was a cannon that fell off the wall. And I just believe that Arnie's character cannot be put together. I don't know if the board's going to do anything, but I'd sure like to see it. Thank you.
Are there any other citizens wishing to be heard this evening? Seeing none, any updates? Seeing none, any conceptual initiatives tonight?
None this evening.
No old business. We'll move on to new business 7A. Contract approval request for Catholic Charities of Southeast Michigan. Senior Services, and this is for final action. I'd make a motion to approve. As submitted.
I'll support.
Any questions, discussion? See?
I just, I'm back on the board after a while, and it took me a bit to figure out why that was put in there, but evidently I talked to staff, and our millage, our senior millage, we vet all those requests for funding. They go through, and then a lot of them, like this one had a portion for a roof and some other things, that's a certain percentage of their operation, so I was satisfied that was a good way to do it. I didn't really, when I first looked at it, why are we putting this up now? It's a contract that goes back to the first of the year, so already 30 days late, and we want to get that in place. That's why it's for final action. And so I'm satisfied with that. I just thought it might benefit the public to know it's not just something that was thrown in there. All the ones we had a dozen or more last regular meeting.
Yep.
Now here's the one with kind of left over, and we caught up on that, and it's been vetted. And, the funds. I was impressed with what staff does when they request a monies. They actually look at that and determine the amount that they're going to get. Everyone's looked at and then revised before it's put on. So that's all.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Does this
Opposed?
need a roll call for money?
Oh, let's do a roll call.
All right.
Commissioner Samasco,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Commissioner Torello,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushing,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Beaton.
Yes. Thank you. Item 8, any other human services matters to come before the board? Seeing none. Item 9, for information only, we received the December points of interest and the January points of interest from the health department.
Make motion to receive and file.
Support, Baldwin. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 10, receive and file packets. Make motion to receive and file. Baldwin.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn. So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Calling the Judiciary Public Safety Committee Board to order. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Samasco,
Yes.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Present.
Commissioner Beaton,
Here.
Commissioner Bone,
Here.
Commissioner Torello,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch.
Here. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? So moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any citizens to be heard? Hearing none, moving on to new business. Since we have no old business, intervention system, intercom replacement.
Make motion to forward that to the full board.
Support.
Any questions?
Anyone recall when the convention center was built? I was here when they built that. Was that?
Intervention Center,
Oh, the intervention. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
2010 on the other one.
That was way, yeah, that was way back.
Because we do have the sheriff here and our jail administrator, so if anybody's got any questions on the intercom system. Or the pharmaceutical contract will coming up next too, so. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to the inmate pharmaceutical service contract.
Make motion to forward that to the full board.
Support.
Any questions on that one?
I have a question. You want to jump up there, Andrew? Do we still work with CMH for some of the drugs? I know back in the day, some of the, I don't want to call them psychedelics, psychotropics, yes. Do we still deal with them on that stuff?
We do, however, there's.
Can you talk in the mic? I'm sorry.
We do, however, there's guidelines when it comes to like Medicaid and payment and rules and regulations. So a lot of the pharmacy stuff is once an individual is incarcerated, all the medications fall back onto the responsibility of the county.
Okay. Because I know we were spending a ton of money on that stuff before.
We are.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you. All in favor, moving to the full board?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Receive and file packets.
Make a motion to receive and file packets. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
At this time, I'd like to call the Board of Commissioners Environmental Public Works Committee meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Samasco,
Here.
Commissioner Baldwin,
Present.
Commissioner Beeden,
Here.
Commissioner Bohm,
Here.
Commissioner Rushing,
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch,
Here.
Commissioner Terrell.
Here. Seeing there's no additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda, can I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there any updates from the board? Seeing none. Any conceptual initiatives?
None this evening.
I'm going to tie mine in with the acceptance of the Marine City Highway corridor stuff, so.
Sorry?
Sorry about that. This right here that I have at your, I'm gonna talk about that when the corridor thing comes up.
Okay. Seeing there's no old business, so we'll move to item 7, new business. Item A, the acceptance of the Marine City Highway Corridor Study.
Make a motion to forward that to the full board.
Support.
Could I amend the motion to ask that it's a receive and file? I mean, the language accept, I would like to, we should receive and file that we paid for it, but I don't know that I accept all the conclusions and so forth. I don't think that's the intention. I think it's more of a receive and file, correct? Officially
Yes.
receive and file. I just ask that the motion be amended if you have no objection.
No objection. A motion to receive and file be forwarded to the full board.
Thank you.
Support.
So, obviously, everybody's got the copy of the 26 Mile Road study report called What You May. Started with this about 1.5 years ago. And it really now parlays into the next question that I guess I would like to answer in a couple weeks. If the county would be willing to participate in the sewer water, projects along 26. I know you've heard me multiple times talk about making land available, so on and so forth. What you have in front of you this evening is a drawing from PCE, which is the engineer for Ira Clay, a couple of them down there. And you have an engineering estimate. What would it be to put the proposed sewer line in the proposed area that they're looking at? How this would look, Ira would be actually the ones that would own the treatment facility. And then they were looking for assistance to help with the sewer lines to put into the ground. As you see the total there, it's roughly 14.6 million. There's, I'm sure, some additional fees, so on and so forth. What I would like to be able to do is 2 weeks from now is to have an answer from this board if we are willing to move forward. Now, there's still a lot of questions, answers. There's a lot of things that they got to do due diligence on their end. If we tell them we're out, then the project dies. If we tell them we're in, then we can move forward with lots of next steps. One of the next steps, obviously, would be they've done a lot of work vetting this company, this Clair water recovery system. They flew out there and they've done a ton of work on that end. Some of the other commissioners have seen what they're proposing to do to treat the sewage over there. And if we were to move forward, I would probably look to, say we're willing to participate up to X amount of dollars. It's gonna take 6 months still to figure this thing out. This thing could die a natural death too, right? They've got to go out and get some numbers on the plants. They got to look at the ratepayers. There's a lot of different things that would happen. We're kind of at that point. I know some of the commissioners, you guys, a couple of new ones on the board, but this has literally been a year and a half of meetings and things in the works. So somewhere we have to give them a yay or nay. And I'd like to be able to give them a yay or a nay in 2 weeks from now. Then if commissioners have questions, like I said, there's still a lot of details to work out moving forward. As I told you before, I am not a proponent of just handing them this money over. I want to make sure there's a repayment method in place. I want to make sure that between Dan Casey and Gary and can we do it? Can't we do it? Those types of things. There's still some questions, and I would probably direct that to Gary in the next couple of weeks to take a look at what can we do, what can't we do. Like I said, I'm not into just here's your 15 million bucks and we're not getting it back, because this problem exists all over the county, water, sewer, and just a lot of undeveloped areas. The reason for 26 Mile Road is that is the place where the industry is looking. When we submit sites, I'm the vice president of our EDA too. So when we put site submittals on the table for different opportunities, 26 Mile Road's the spot, proximity to Macomb, thoroughfare, so on and so forth. So it's not even in an area I represent, but it could be the next commercial, type of, when I say commercial hub, but employment hub for these larger plants. We are getting more activity in the last year than we probably have in 17 years. And whether it be EV, whether it be, I'm not arguing what I like, what I hate, any of that kind of stuff. We just need to be able to set the table for industry. And if the county does not participate, there's no way any of these communities are going to be able to do the heavy lift on their end. We would need to get this to, I'd like to get the project to somewhat of kind of a shovel-ready status, because when we go out to seek additional funds, I wasn't able to submit the 26 Mile Road corridor this year for some of the congressional spending. And, we were talking, there was $5 million kind of stuff hanging out there to help fund that. Ironically, after our meeting yesterday, I went to the landfill with the individuals from Clair, met with Matt Williams, a couple others out there. And what's pretty crazy about this algae, what they need to grow algae is they need CO2. And our landfill uses methane, but then we just burn and flare off the CO2. So that then led into a capture system, which you would be able to actually capture the CO2 of the emissions of the landfill, which would then be enough to be able to help assist to grow this algae. Pretty next level stuff. And it could then take our landfill to like almost a net zero emissions, which is unheard of for a landfill. So just a lot of really interesting things, I guess, that are in the works. The reason this algae plant that they're picking it does very well with heavy metals. And if you're an industrial waste user, a lot of your waste produces a heavy metal content, completely different than household flushing your toilets and that stuff. So the algae, it works well. I think they have 25 or 30 of these things around the country. So that's it. It's my long-winded deal. But in a couple of weeks, I'd like to be able to come back to the board and give my yay or nay. So, and there's going to be a million questions. And like I said, it can die a natural death too along the way. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
You're looking at me.
Actually, I was looking at Joy, but that's okay. It's, I've had some concerns about this. The Wade Trim study I thought was geared for economic development. Jeff, you've been a leader in the community, you're board chair, you have a vision for economic development, and you've never changed this. You've been that way 16 years ago, you're that way today, and good things have come from that. But a couple concerns I have, new to the board, new back on the board. I was gone for 8 years, here 8 years, gone 8 years, I'm back. My concern is, and I look at this stuff, as everyone does, one of the concerns is this issue of federal risk compliance management. You know, we've got funds from Congress, Code of Federal Regulations define it, the federal statutes lay it out. And if we don't do it the way that we're supposed to do it, there can be recoupment. And your plan to take this money and turn it into this LDFA fund and then reuse it is a good plan. It makes sense. But, you know, legal questions, does that change the nature of our reporting? Can we do that under the federal law? And I've tried to do what I could do to study it and research it. And I've talked to our staff. I talked to Dean Alderdice, who's here, about, are you comfortable with, you know, it's a big job. We have all these projects from all over the place and this is coming up. You know, do you need some help or some oversight? Some people who are experts in that field. So if you're going to go down that road, there was obviously 4 votes or more in the past. You're looking at that, and maybe there's 4 votes now. If that's the case, then it's going to go that way, and that's the way it's supposed to work. 4 out of 7, that's how you do it, or more. I just want to make sure we take time to have risk compliance here, so we don't have issues later, you know, of recoupment. So that's the first issue. The second issue is really one of fairness. You mentioned it here tonight. One of the thoughts I had, you know, these sewer issues exist all over the county. Okay, we're going to take $10 million or $14 million or whatever other number you're talking, we don't quite know yet. We're going to push that down to Ira Township. Well, what about all these other townships that have not only sewer needs, but say other needs? I mean, to not even have the conversation. I mean, if you're going to go with that one particular project, and that's the will of the board, that's the way it's going to be. But shouldn't we at least listen to see if other townships, municipalities have other needs that might be more urgent, you know? And then the response to coronavirus, that whole piece of legislation, Congress just barfed up this money, trillions of dollars added to the debt. And now it's here, you know, we can't use it for debt reduction. We can't use it for pensions. We can't use it for a lot of things. It's supposed to be response to pandemic recovery. And now this new legislation, as of a couple of weeks ago, ARPA Flex. I mean, that's, you know, the next thing, right? It's supposed to open up, maybe general infrastructure is allowed, because I was looking at this originally thinking the plan that you have really is an EDA development initiative. It's not coronavirus response. The statute does say infrastructure. The statute does say sewers, you know, so there's language there. But if you look at the Code of Federal Regulations, there are issues with that. And they say clearly it's not for general economic development. And we can call it what we want. We can say what we think it is, but I want to make sure we don't have recoupment later and be writing the feds a check and the money's gone. I just want to be careful with that. So that's kind of where I come from. 2 weeks, it's just too fast. You know, I don't know how we can do it in 2 weeks, but that's my position on it. I think it's moving way too fast, and I don't like the process. That's my issue.
Well, as I told you before, it's been a year and a half. Obviously you're new, but this isn't anything that we have not been working on. There's still gonna be a lot more time to this, right? So, I mean, for us to take 6 months, I guess we'd have to conceptually just say, you know what, Ira, we like it. You know, we'd be willing to participate. There's a lot more questions that we have to answer, so on and so forth. Just kind of give them.
If that's the level you're talking, is just, are we going to continue considering it? That's fine. It's being considered. I just, you know, the board wants it considered. I don't mind considering it, looking at it as a project. Just like the other issue I'm really interested in is rural broadband. We've talked about that, and you've been very forthcoming and very helpful about my interest in taking some of these monies to get grant money from the Robin grant, from the RDOF money, from all these other places to get what they call, you know, fiber to the home is the last piece, but the mid-mile piece of it is the backbone. And, you know, we met with Tenniswood when I was a citizen in December. You met with me, my concerns. I told you where I wanted to go. I appreciate that. So there's another thing we can look at. But I think the board wants to look at all those things. So yeah, I think if that's all it is, you're just going to be looking at it and continue to look at it. We're going down there.
Look at it and continue to look at it. Like I said, I think there's going to be, you know, opportunity somewhere we have to take, I guess, an action to say, yes, we're in, we'll move forward, you know, engineering, those types of things.
You better define it. I mean, how many dollars? What are you talking? I mean, I have no idea. I mean, you're talking 14 million. Is that the deal?
Well, that's
okay. That's the deal. Okay. This is the first I've seen those numbers.
Yeah, no. And that's why I want a couple of weeks for people to take it, think about it. If it takes us a month, so be it. But somewhere along the line, we got to know, because the county, if we tell them we're out, it's dead.
So is that
Period.
the total cost? I mean,
No, the plant itself is about a 32 to 35
so
million
it's
dollar. Yeah, so, and then there's some other things in the works with some other companies as we speak down there. Iyer Township is willing to accept a Renaissance zone for those that aren't familiar with Renaissance zones. Essentially what it does is it is a tax-free zone for 15 years. Nobody likes that, I get it. But the state of Michigan, in lieu of the 15 years, they hand you a bag full of money,
Okay.
which if you look at a couple of recent projects they just did, the big chip manufacturing thing up in, up near Cadillac, I forget what they gave them, 50 million, 100 million. I mean, those are the kind of payments that you can get to take care of some of this stuff. We met with the DRP, Detroit Regional, folks the other night. I had a meeting with them. I'm gonna be talking to them about what level of participation, if anything, for sewer, water.
Well, yeah, and I shared with Jeff just briefly, because I got this today, there's a consulting company that's associated with Price Waterhouse that does federal risk management and does consulting on ARPA expenditures. Everything from reporting, plus they do piecemeal stuff. I mean, and maybe Gary can pine in on this or chime in on this. You know, do we need somebody to look at this? I'd be much more comfortable having somebody with that kind of a background with some real expertise. I'm sure Gary knows his way around the federal statutes and the Code of Federations and everything else. I've looked at it. It's hard. Is the board have any interest in
I can assure you, I would never want to put the county in
No, I
harm's
know,
way.
I'm not saying that, John. I'm just saying, but 2 weeks and a vote, it can go that way and we're down that road. Or is there any interest in getting some further oversight besides just staff and perhaps local corporate counsel or not? I think we should look at that, but maybe there's no interest in that. I don't know.
What, with compliance, Carrie, and Dina with some of these other, I mean, this is obviously more zeros, but we've had compliance on all these other things, whether it be a culvert replacement, right, or something else. There's the staff.
Some things are more complicated. I get that. Some of the stuff is pretty straightforward and I get that, but this seems to be rather complicated to me
So,
because, go ahead.
sorry, join me. So I think, there's a part of me that, I get that it's a new program, but we trust Carrie and Dina to run a $60 million budget, 900 people, 23 unions, 7 plus 5 elected officials. To me, if we don't trust, if
This isn't a budget. This is the federal.
I
it's very-
understand, but
yeah.
they work within
They're
projects.
very there's no disrespect to them. They're excellent. I've talked to them. They're I get that. Do we need to have some people, experts look at it so we don't regret it later? If not, that's my only point.
Yeah, with regard to, there are no experts on this law. The reason is it's a new law and it's new regulations. And I know people try to sell themselves as experts and because they can bill credible amounts of money. I can tell you, Carrie is very cautious about that stuff, and so am I, because we know if we mess it up, county's got to write a big check. And if there's a gray area and we don't know, we get guidance from the people that handle the money in Washington. That's where the buck stops, not with some consultant in Cleveland or wherever. And some areas are clear, some are maybe not as clear. And you also weigh the risk. If it's something small, it's probably not something they're going to come after. If it's something really big, the likelihood is through either our congressional delegation or directly dealing with people that in Washington that administer these grants, that we would seek guidance from them in writing. So
Yeah, the Treasury Department had staff for that, but it dried up and maybe now it's back. I think it's back. There was a period of time we had that and then it was gone, and it may be back now. I don't know, but I understand there is some Department of Treasury staff assistance that can answer those as well.
and then if we ever got to the point where there was some specialty, what the heck ever, we would seek somebody out to do that. We've done it before. And this isn't something new. The city of Port Huron did this with federal EDA money for years. That's how the Port Huron Industrial Park got built. It was a grant. It was forgiven as long as you built it. And as long as you didn't violate any rules when you built it, it was your money. And they recycled that money for 40 years and filled up that industrial park and created 6,000 jobs. And it was audited. It was looked at. There was never a murmur. Now that's a little bit of different kind of grant than these grants. But obviously, Carrie's very careful, Dina's very careful, and honestly, conservative as they should be. And we would look at it very carefully. And if we didn't know, because it was gray, we'd get the answers from Washington.
So would we have corporation counsel kind of, let's say once a proposal gets some meat on the bone, would we have Gary look at that, you know, in addition to staff, you think, or no? I mean to say, or is he part of that process? I was asking our administrator.
Oh,
I'm curious, yeah.
So I can say that I'm very confident that Dina and I, we have all the same information the consultant does. We have read all the same documentation, attended all of the same trainings. So there's no information that they would have that we don't already have. And as Gary indicated, if there's something we don't know, then we would ask. And, you know, certainly Michigan Association of Counties also has several pre-qualified consultants that deal with this that member counties can ask questions to. But at the end of the day, if we hire a consultant and they give us bad advice, we're still on the hook for writing that check back. It doesn't give us any extra protection. It's just another opinion of reading the same document. So we're certainly not afraid to ask for help when we need it, but at this time, I'm fairly confident. Dina's been handling federal grants for the county for 18 years. I think you would be hard pressed to find someone with more grant experience than her.
And that's what Dina told me this morning. I didn't get a chance to contact you on that, but that's pretty much what, you know, Dina told me this morning as well. So, thank you.
I think we're on like ARPA 3.0 now, aren't we? From what they
ARPA
rolled
Flex,
out.
I'm gonna see what ARPA Flex.
Yeah, no, because the original what you could do, then they changed it up a little bit. I want to say that they loosened the reins up a little bit more. Now you got, I don't know, you know.
Actually, it's constantly getting refined and reporting requirements. You know, every quarter they tweak it, so it's not static. It's always changing, and we're keeping up with that.
I have numerous questions.
You do?
Yes, I do. Sorry. When I've been in these meetings over the last year and a half, the last discussions we had in Ira Township, it was closer to the $10 million. You bring this tonight with 14.6 million.
We never had a number or
Just
estimate.
fine, just
Yeah.
fine. It is what it is. And there's gonna be, I imagine, the standard 20% over potentially. So this is for approximately 40% of the remaining funds that we have. And we were talking about a payback. Now, potentially, within 2 weeks, I don't know if you're gonna have all that information together to see how the county's gonna get paid back this $14 million, because that was discussed with Ira Township. If these are usable ARPA funds, so that they are a legal use for these funds, if they pay back those funds, isn't this just a loan? Is this actually, if we're not just gifting the money, is that actually ARPA funds? Are they paying us back ARPA monies? Because I'm not sure now if it qualifies for ARPA funds. Because if we're going to get paid back the 14.6 million, because if you're going to use ARPA funds, and maybe my wording isn't correct, if we're actually going to use it for specific uses, and it's going to take them, I don't know what the payback is, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, once you get more users into it, how that is going to be paid back. So I need to find out if these are actually usable ARPA funds. If they're going to be required to pay it back, I'm not sure it's usable under that definition. On Steve's point, if potentially we have to get these recouped, the federal government says, no, this wasn't a legal use, just for discussion, where are we going to get the $14.6 million from? If we forward this money to IRA. And IRA's in my township, I think it's a need that needs to be done. I'm not sure the cost justifies we're going there. Also, you got so many moving parts. We have been working at this for a year and a half. I think a lot of these questions could have been answered prior to, then in 2 weeks to say, yeah, we're going to dedicate 14.6 million without knowing the payback.
I don't know if I would necessarily dedicate it as much as do we even have an interest in continuing to pursue it. If the questions can get answered with the commissioners, if you just tell me flat, no, I'm not even interested in going down this, and then there's not 4 votes. I mean, that's what I'm trying to get.
I'm definitely interested.
I'm trying to get a pulse on what the.
I'm definitely interested in assisting Ira Township and also Casco, but I don't want to do it at the expense of the other 4 townships. Like I brought up the road from Boardman Road to Riley Township. We've talked about this particular piece of road. I don't know if there's a worse piece of road in St. Clair County. And that piece of road was offered to the city of Memphis for easy math. If they would have given the road commission 10,000, we would have repaved the road for them. But now the road is deteriorated in such a point, my last figures from the road commission is now it's $500,000 plus. And they don't want to deal with the city of Memphis to do this. But that road benefits many residents within St. Clair County. They're coming from Macomb County, and that's the main road coming through
They
Riley's.
don't want it fixed, how can we tell them to fix it?
Well, what they did, they wouldn't accept $100,000 from us. I think that if you say, we're just going to fix it, you don't have to give us $10,000. I don't know the specifics, how the city council did not accept it. Kurt Weston would be able to answer that much better, but he's not here now. So I'd have to do some research and get all those informations. But there's other things in the county that potentially we could look at. I'm for benefiting Ira Township, but I'm really concerned about $14.6 million on two things. One, are they actual usable ARPA funds? And also, what is the payback? Or is it going to be a 20-year payback? I think we need those questions answered prior to.
Payback is all gonna be industry driven, right? If nothing shows up, you're not gonna get paid back for a long time. If you get a plant like, and I use that Magna expansion, that's 1.5 million in payback. If you can get a, you know, we're shortlisted on a particular, I can't say what company it is, but it's a Renaissance zone deal, that's a bag of money, so.
It has potential, and I'm, you know, has a lot of potential.
I think even
to generate
getting it to a
revenue.
shovel-ready status would be critical to be able to go to the street and get some, whether it be earmarks, whether it be other loans, those types of things, right? When I can't submit 26 Mile Road because there's not enough information, you know, for the other stuff, somewhere we gotta elevate it to that level too. We're gonna have to spend some money on engineering, so on and so forth. And you talk about 26 Mile Road, whether you like the study or not, that's the first step if you want to widen that road or do any improvements or anything. So at least that's sitting on the shelf now, right? That work's been done.
Well, you got a couple of my main concerns. Hopefully we can get those answered within 2 weeks. The second part is my motion is just to accept the study, not to accept this.
No, it's completely understand. I just want, it goes into the whole bigger picture. Maybe it's not 2 weeks, it's 2 months or whatever. I'm just, somewhere along the lines, we gotta let these guys know if we're even interested or if you just.
It's a 30
no,
to 45 day window where they have to have a yes or no, correct?
Probably need to know sooner than later, yeah. I mean,
Because last meeting I went to was about a 60-day window, and
yeah,
that
it's been a
window's
year and a
closed.
half. It's not like I just fell out of bed and dreamed this thing up overnight.
Yeah,
So,
but still, the question still remains. Now we got this figure in front of us. We're gonna have to make this decision, yes or no, however we get there. And these other questions could have had some answers prior to. Because now this is pretty substantial. You're going from 10 million to 50% more to make it 15 million for easy math. And that's 40% of the funds that we have remaining.
that's more than that. We got 23 million, so it's.
Right. Well, you take 14 or 15 from 23, that's 40%. There's 60% remaining. If we take this.
That's 60% of our monies would be spent, and it'd be 40% remaining.
You're correct, 60.
Yeah, all right.
I did it backwards. 40% remaining.
We have $8.5 million left, if we commit 15 million, right? That's unaccounted for.
How does the board justify putting that amount into a need when I know there are other needs that are just as important in the county? And to put 44% of the remaining funds into one need in one township, yeah, it's economic development and all that. But how do you ignore the other real needs? You want to do a road, go put some gravel on Kelly Road out in Lynn Township so you can get down it in April. You can't even get down with a four-wheel drive. I mean, I get it, Jeff, and you really, have a vision for that. But I just think we're ignoring other needs that are equally important that other townships and municipalities have, not to mention nonprofits, all these other things the money was meant for. It's just pushing it all into one great big pile. And I'm not saying it's bad, but is it fair? Is it right? I don't think so.
I go back to the repayment. I'm not about handing $15 million and not getting the money.
Yeah, but your
back.
repayment sounds like we might get it in 10 years or 3 years, or we may not get it at all. I mean, if you we got to wait till the next big project comes, we go into a recession, and it doesn't come, I mean, I don't know what the
So
details.
if we don't do it, we got about 2 or 3 sites left and then we're done.
Yeah, but
And
how do
St.
we-
and
how
then
do we
St. Clair
say-
County, I'm always focused jobs and tax base.
I know
And
that.
you know that, that's where
I
I'm
know
worried.
that. I know that.
So if we choose not to do this, we're just,
But how do we elevate that over other needs? I mean, your house has smoking hot broadband. People in my district can't even watch a television show, you know? How do we address that? You know, these other needs that are very important needs as well. That's the conversation. I wasn't here on the board. Maybe you guys had those conversations, but that's the conversation I want to have as the board I'm on now. If it's too late, there will be a vote in 2 weeks or whatever you're doing, but I just think that's where I'm coming from.
Joy, can I comment? We've also we need to get these jobs ready so we can apply for other grants. Not necessarily that we have to do the heavy lifting. I'd like to see some of the bigger players getting involved. You know, the feds have a hell of a lot more money than we do, even with this ARPA, funding we've got. But we also have to have the state involved. And until we know where they're at, I mean, we can commit, but until they come to the table, we can't just have it St. Clair County and Ira doing the lifting. And I think getting the project ready, so it's shovel ready, so we can at least get grants, at least get into Washington on the table. Hey, we've got this project ready, like we had maybe a handful, was it 2 years ago? Because nobody had anything ready.
yeah, if you're not at a shovel-ready status, you're not getting, or at least have it somewhat well thought out, so on and so forth, you're not getting 10 cents.
At least some preliminary engineering done on it.
May I?
Yes, you.
Thanks. So to Steve's point about how do you why is it fair? Why is it fair to put it all in this area? Because I'm way up north, so none of my communities are directly impacted by this. But I think it's an opportunity. So you talk about putting gravel on a road that's out. It's out. We pay for it. The road is good and it's done. There's nothing coming back from that. What I'm attracted to in a project like this is that if there's a payback, or if the payback is just for development, which turns into more payment into our millages and more payment. I mean, it's bigger than just that road and those jobs. It is now you've got another payer into the senior millage and the DTF millage and all of those things that come back. So putting it towards some of these other projects, and I'm not saying we shouldn't put them toward any of those projects, but this is an opportunity to take 15 million, potentially make it 47 million between the public-private partnership to get the plant in, and then get payback from that over, however many years after development. So I think that's why I'm able to look at it a little differently and say, yes, if we had just chosen, we got 31 million and we're going to divide that up, whether it's per person or per parcel, you could do that, but this makes the money go farther to me. And so that's why I'm a proponent of continuing on through the process to see where we go, what it looks like. The contingencies are built into that, to the 11 million, and then you've got the 10% over that. That's where you get to the 15. So I feel like between the 11 and 14 is all contingency based, but up to that 11 million is the hard and fast number for almost 11 miles of pipe. That after the meeting I had, sounds like Ira and that whole area does need to do something with the wastewater or with a waste treatment plant, regardless of the other parts, right? I mean, that's a heavy lift that most townships wouldn't be able to do today without serious bonding.
Well, they wouldn't, if they stayed as is, they wouldn't have to do it, and then they can't provide any additional sewer capacity for anything along 26, so.
I agree with that, and I'm interrupting here, but I agree with that. If they don't get the assistance, it's not gonna happen. Currently, they already owe us approximately 180,000 left from,
150.
okay, 150, because they are making monthly payments. That was about 14 years ago, approximately.
It's 400,000. It was actually when Wally was board chair, so yeah.
It was prior to me. So, just concerns. Oh, one more thing. Excuse me, Gary. Does Ira have any monies to put forward? Any dollars at all?
They're spending all the money on the engineering right now. They're gonna own the plant. They're gonna sign on the dotted line for
But as far as
32,
this, they
35
can't
million.
assist any on this. That you're aware of right now.
I didn't, they're gonna have to commit to the plan, you know, which is, that's big money.
I was thinking about, I think what Jeff is, I mean, I get that in 2 weeks with what information you have now to say we're jumping in the deep end 100% doesn't make sense. But if there are, to me, there's either 4 votes that we're interested in this. If we get questions answered, can this money be recycled? Number one. Number two is, well, I guess number one, is it a legal use of the ARPA funds? For sure, ironclad, 100%. Number two, will they buy into the money being recaptured if it's used again for ARPA compliant purposes? That's been done on other grants. I know it for a fact because I was involved in it. This one, they might not allow it. They might. And then if all that fails, I think the ARPA thing is less of a chance of failing. But then at least you know what you would have to put in, what you could likely recapture. And the other thing is, I know for a fact, because it worked in St. Clair, once it's shovel ready, there's preliminary engineering done, enough engineering to get the project laid out properly and get good solid estimates of costs. There's other sources of money. There would probably be federal earmarks. Jeff, working with our congressional delegation, I think it was Lisa McLean, got $1.2 million for the St. Clair project.
Million towards the water tower, which we had a 3.6 million commitment from the state. So then they got an additional $1 million.
Yeah, and the state would likely the state's all about big sites. We have these chip plants, battery plants. They want the big plants to continue to be the pulse of the auto industry, which maybe isn't going to be, well, for me, it'll always be internal combustion, but for a whole lot of other people, it won't. And they are putting big money into stuff to make sure these sites are available, big grants. But none of it's going to happen if we don't start down the road doing something. So, but if there's not 4 votes, then we're just spinning our wheels.
Gary, just because we got to move on, but if the payback is, because we have to dedicate the money by the end of 2024, it has to be spent by the end of 2026, all these ARPA funds. If there's a 30-year payback, and we're getting those monies, how does that qualify for any ARPA? Just for something to look at. Once the money comes back.
Good question. There's a lot to look at.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Sorry for throwing a curveball.
Well, for the first one, right? You
Yeah.
guys are going big.
Good job, Joey.
Yeah. Okay. So item 7 was to the acceptance of the highway corridor file study.
Receive and file.
Okay. I'm not asking if we have any more questions. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, Smith Creek landfill activities report.
Make a motion to receive and file.
They weren't included.
What's that?
They weren't.
No, they were not included in your packet.
Oh.
So there's nothing to receive and file.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to item 9, other environmental public works matters. Seeing none, information only.
Make a motion to receive and file, item 11.
Okay.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Support. All right. Motion.
Nice job.
This time I'd like to call the Ways and Means Committee to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Smasko?
Here.
Commissioner Baldwin? Here. Commissioner Beeden?
Present.
Commissioner Bohm?
Here.
Commissioner Torello?
Here.
Commissioner Vanden Bosch?
Here.
Commissioner Rushing?
Here. Citizens wishing to be heard. We have one, and I hope I got your name right. Rob Druick. And this has to do with the Eddy development.
Excuse me, Chair, do we need to accept the agenda?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Moving fast here. Yeah, can I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
So moved. Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. All right, citizens, please.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Rob Druick. I'm one of the principals of Eddy Development LLC. I'm here tonight to just give a brief progress report on our project at the former elementary school site in St. Clair. We're happy to report back to you that because of the cooperation afforded to us by St. Clair County and the city of St. Clair, that we are way ahead of our previously estimated timeline of bringing the properties out of the land bank, and we appreciate the fact that the county has these tools available to help revitalize functionally obsolete properties. Beginning this year, the majority of the former school site will now be placed on tax rolls. Also, beginning this year, the property has been renamed the Eddy Center, and we have incorporated the former Eddy Eagle logo that everybody is familiar with. As of today, the Eddy Center is home to a myriad of tenants: Friends of the St. Clair River, Big River Barbecue, Viking Fitness, Keller Williams, Blue River, and the cornerstone of this development, which is the Blue Water YMCA Child Care Center, which is licensed for over 100 children. In addition to these tenants, we've been able to donate space to the local ecumenical food pantry, who serves food items throughout the county. And also last year, Robin Grace, who some of you may know as the Christmas lady, was able to provide over 600 local children a Christmas gift bundle, which was distributed out of space donated by the center. Some of you and in the public may have questions as to how this process has worked for us. And I'm here today to advise everyone that from now on, I will be the single point of contact for information with regards to this project. And I'm inviting anyone who has any concerns or questions or comments about the revitalization of this property to reach out to me directly. My contact information is available. I don't know if it's proper, if I can leave it at the desk up there, but I guess that's a question for the board. I don't know if I can ask a question.
It would be fine to just forward it to our administrator.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sings, I went to kindergarten there, class of 73.
What? I graduated class of 73 when we were having our 50th class reunion at the convention center.
Yeah.
I wasn't born yet. Yeah, negative years.
All right, no more citizens to be heard. Do we have any updates? Conceptual initiatives. 5A.
I sent to Carrie this issue on TikTok. That was a result of something that Senator Lowers had put out. There's a bill under consideration by the state, I think, to actually make use of TikTok by county state employees or state equipment criminal or penal offense. And I looked at that, and it was there's some debate on that. The issue with TikTok, just real quickly, that is owned by a Chinese company. It has automatic built-in permission extensions that once you use it, it gives permissions for other things. It's subject to data mining, data sales, storage, unwitting storage, national security issues. And the other thing is, why are people TikToking when they're at work? They should be working, right? So beyond, I proposed a policy. I did look at the policy on policies. Some of the commissioners responded back, well, we should do that more in the sense of some committee thing. I just revised the policy, got the right number, stuck it out there, gave it to Carrie. I think they're going to send that off, maybe to have it looked at. And I think Carrie was saying there's other things they want to look at in the line of the technology and equipment policy. But I really feel that TikTok's really a nasty piece of work. I don't like it. I've never opened a TikTok. Somebody sends me TikTok, I delete it. I don't like it. I don't think it should be on county equipment used by county employees. And the other thing is, people watching TikTok instead of working. I have a problem with that as well. So that's why I put it out there.
Anybody want to have any comments here?
Can we use it for an investigative tool?
Well, there's an exception. Someone did say that is important, and I guess the health department uses it to reach out to some of the youth, which maybe there's some way to sanitize some of that. I don't know, but I just don't like it for law enforcement. That's an entirely different issue. They're going to be looking at that stuff and maybe using it. I don't know, and they have some pretty sophisticated technology that they use for investigations, so we could do a carve out for that, obviously. But if they do treat it as a conceptual initiative, send it through whatever process the county has for department heads to submit policy changes. I'd like that looked at, and that's why I threw that out.
Because we have used some of this kind of technology for background investigations on some employees too. Because something they put on social media is a reflection on how they're going to act as a county employee. So some of the, I don't know how the banning it's gonna work for some of the other investigative areas, HR or, cause each department almost has their own background, don't they? On some of the hiring.
I'm sure they have processes for that. I mean, my only interest is at least send it to this committee, maybe check with department heads and maybe report back and see if that's something we can do. I think it's something we need to look at least. I'm not making a motion to do that. They said, put it on as a conceptual initiative. I said, that's fine. It makes sense, make it a conceptual initiative. That's, I guess, is there an interest in treating it as a
Do you
conceptual?
have a time frame when you want some type of response, whether we go forward or not?
I do not. It was whatever administration feels might be necessary or appropriate.
I would ask that this be tabled for 1 month till we get some time to think about it. Okay, fine. Anything else?
I do want to just, so I understand and I agree that I don't think people should be using any social media while on the clock if it's not related to their job. I agree with you there, but why single out one social media platform? I think that if there are, and I think that there are positive uses for technology, and I understand that maybe you don't use TikTok, but
It's owned by
I
it's
would
owned,
say
it's owned by the
that you're
Chinese. It's owned by the Chinese Communist Party. That's enough for me. I don't know. That's it's not your mother's Facebook, but I'm convinced.
Yeah, you don't want my mom's Facebook. She'll read it to you like the newspaper. But so I don't want to single out one platform over another, right? Because they all have hidden. I mean, I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg with my information either, but he has more information than we probably realize. So as we look at this and think about it, I think we need to address all of social media and how we use it as a county and when we think it's appropriate to use it instead of just cherry picking what we like.
I don't get, with all due respect, I do not get the logic of that. If one out of the 6 is nasty, you don't use the nasty one, but I understand your point.
Okay.
Anything further? All right. Old business, we have none. 7A, American Rescue Plan Act funding request, Fort Huron Courthouse Elevator Project. Can I have a motion to send it to the full board?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7B, Fort Huron Courthouse roof repair.
Make motion.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. 7C, Drain Advisory Commission. That's the wrong word. What word is that?
Precision.
Precision?
Yes, you're
That's how it's spelled? Okay. Motion, please.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. We have one proclamation tonight. Do you want to read it or do you want to just give a brief rundown?
I'd like to make a motion first.
That would be good. All right, we have a motion and a second.
It's Ron Glodich is retired from the East China School District. He was head football coach. And
Is that TikTok?
Yeah, they heard you. The Chinese government got you.
Water's falling. I forgot to turn my phone off.
he was an educator in the county for 30 years. He was actually, his first year was I played for him. We got him out of college and he looked younger than us. And he wrote a book and a lot of the proceeds are going back to the community. So, and we're going to do a book signing on Saturday and very great guy.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. This time, do we have any other Ways and Means Matters?
David, I, have something here. Steve got some information, but we actually met with the individual, Ray Sines, Jeff Donaldson, there's a couple of us to go over. Just talk about broadband. Now, full disclosure, I can barely use my cell phone, so if I'm talking wrong, there's a pretty good chance that I don't know what I'm talking about. But with all this broadband and things that are happening, and I think Jeff Donaldson even said, you know, maybe to have somebody to, I know we have our broadband committees, those types of things. Do we need to have somebody maybe from the outside that does this stuff for a living, you know, to bring them as part of the group to know? The meeting was very informational, you know, and who was doing what and stuff. And so I'm just kind of.
Because I've known Jeff a long time, when I became elected in November, I could reach out to him and as a citizen, and he was kind enough to actually had a meeting at RISA with Steve Tenniswood about the concerns I had. One of the big concerns in my district is it's essentially unserved by state and federal definition for high-speed internet. And I really didn't know a lot about it. I know a lot more about it now. But RISA has a huge trunk that comes in from Cincinnati. There's other broadband coming in from the north and from the west. And the way it works is these ISPs, service providers, will jump off that and do what they call a midline connection and then a fiber to the home connection. And the fiber to the home are the people that send you the bill. That's who you get the bill from. So I looked at that with Jeff, and then I did more work on it. This Ray Sines was the guy that did the broadband study for Muzzy Township, and also working with Birchville Township, or Clyde, one of them, Birchville, Clyde, one. It's a bunch of plus down south. So anyway, so they're very kind. I got a lot of information from them, and my concern with Jeff was, my initial assessment was because of the numbers, in my district, we don't have the population to support private enterprise coming in and doing that infrastructure, doing that they call it mid-mile, the laying of the cable. The ISPs might pick it up, the internet service providers can pick it up. So the way it works, I told Jeff, I asked this Ray Sines, who drafted the plans, he was paid to do a couple, 3-4 plans in the county anyway, to give me a proposal. I gave it to Jeff as a broadband advisor. One of the other pieces is on a national level, again, the feds passed this thing called RDOF, residential data something or other. It's basically broadband money, billions of dollars. And a company called Mercury Broadband got out of Nebraska, got Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, and they're going to come up here. We don't have a contract with them. We don't have any connection with them, but they've got federal money to come up here and produce accessibility to broadband. Now, they may do infrared, they may do line to sight, there's all different kinds of broadband. The only real good broadband that does not have the latency and the jitter and all the other problems that you have with your reception is fiber to the home. So the issue there is with Mercury, they're going to come in here and he can help us, an advisor can help us maybe pull Mercury's chain a little bit on what are you doing? We don't like that. We'd like something else done. Plus coordinate that with state money. Because once the feds have done this, now the Robin Grant money, some other money from the state, there's money for that as well for rural broadband development. It's been, quote, preempted by the feds. And so the state doesn't want to give us grant money because we have this Mercury broadband deal going. So very complicated. My suggestion to Jeff was look at it. Maybe we can find some way to, without spending, I don't want to spend $144,000 like the study down in Ira Township. I'm talking somebody to help us as a liaison, some other level, but explore that. So I gave Jeff a copy of what Ray Sines sent me. He's got it in front of him. He said, let's talk about it tonight. I didn't know he was going to talk about it tonight.
Well, I'm just conceptually, should we have it would be like a consultant, right? Do we have to bring somebody in to assist? I don't know this broadband, so I mean, unless we're confident with the level, you know, of people that we have on a broadband committee. I look at it like our landfill, you know, when we hired a landfill consultant before to help with some, you know, some of that stuff. We've hired different consultants different times.
Well, the people that you want to work on 26 Mile Road and these nice jobs won't even live up my way because they can't get internet. You know, so this to me, it's another very important area, maybe to get you interested more. Not that you aren't, but as an economic development piece as well. School from home, large files, automotive stuff. You know, to have that accessibility.
I guess I would defer to Dave or whomever's on the broadband committee. Do you need that additional level of somebody that's maybe in the industry overseeing, looking? I just, you don't have to answer that question right now, but, I found it to be very informative, but there again, I really don't know what I'm talking about, so.
So you're
Comes
kind
to
of,
broadband.
would you recommend, I'm recommending we do that. Are you recommending we look at that, Jeff?
Well, I would ask, so we do have a broadband committee, right? And pose a question to them. Do you need that a little additional level of assistance? I guess, do we need somebody that's actually overseeing some of these companies that are doing some work in some of the areas? I guess it's worth having a conversation.
Right.
Georgia?
May I ask a question, Dave?
Yeah.
So you're talking about bringing someone in to, not to do something that's already being paid for by the feds. This is another part of that,
What
or
happens is
instead of
This
the
company, the
dollars.
Wideband Group is a company, they're consultants like this. Wade Trim did a study, where they did the Muzzy Township study, which was the stepping stone to get money for broadband infrastructure in some townships over there. So he did the study, okay? That's what they do. But he also has tremendous, very informative. He's helped me on a lot of things. I can call him, ask him questions. I wanted to bring somebody in that could help the board look at that, or the broadband committee. In this issue with Mercury, my concern was because there's federal money that was given to a corporation to bring high-speed internet to St. Clair County. But the problem is, if you put material out like these line-to-site internet service providers, all the stuff hanging on the poles, if that company goes out of business, that's just garbage on a stick. It's not like buried fiber. If you have buried fiber, this is what this Ray made sense to me. If you bury fiber and you do a backbone, somebody goes out of business, that is valuable. Someone will come in and pick that up and use that and make use of it. And that's perhaps where we can look at even some ARPA money towards that as match money. Something I've actually asked Duke, the broadband guy, to give me some ideas on what it would look like. They're talking about like RISA has fiber going out by Memphis, but it doesn't have what they call redundancy. It's not a loop. They want to connect it up. And he said that would fit with some of that. So
It's not a duplication of what the federal money is doing. It's how to fill in gaps potentially to look at the big
the
picture.
problem is the federal people can do what they want. And maybe we'd ask Gary some point, but my understanding is the feds contracted with this company, so they're gonna come in here and they're gonna put up whatever they want. They're not gonna consult us. We talked, Jeff was at the meeting with, we had with some of these people, and our staff was saying, yeah, we've reached out to get information. They'll barely talk to us because we don't have any, we're not their boss, we're not contracting with them. We're just kind of an annoyance maybe to them,
Yeah.
So this Ray Science is suggesting there are ways to get that connection going, and I think that'd be beneficial. And it's very complicated and it's very necessary. That's part of the problem.
I'll put a little bit on that because I was part of these meetings also. Mercury is a company based out of Kansas and they cover many states. The federal government, like they do in Lansing and Washington, they do a lot of feel-good legislation and spend a lot of money. So they got over, 200 million plus to do high speed in rural districts. What the federal government did, whether they were capable of putting it in or not, they gave it to the lowest bidder. Whether Mercury's capable of even putting one pole up, we don't know that. And that's his concern. There's a lot of potential broadband that can go in, but Mercury may not be the company to do this.
They are, though, awarded the federal government contract. They
Right.
have 6 years to do it.
Yes.
That's over our pay grade, right? Now, do we have to keep an eye
They're
on
gonna
them?
spend every bit of that money.
Well,
They're gonna get that money and spend it.
But so that's,
Well, I think Steve's concern is we don't know what Mercury's going to do there, whatever the pay grade is where they're doing it. We want to see about getting broadband out to them. Maybe we can get some specifics from Mercury of what they're actually doing in the county. Because I think somebody at the meeting, they contacted Mercury and they just said, they just weren't even going to talk to them. You were at the meeting too, and I forget who brought that up, but Mercury wouldn't even return the phone calls in regards to what's happening in Lynn Township.
Jeff Donaldson brought that up.
Okay. Yeah, Jeff Donaldson. And pretty much they're capable of doing it in Lynn Township, when I believe it's the smallest township we have as far as population. But other than that, they don't have the capabilities for the other 22 townships or the cities.
Well, what happened in Lynn Township is kind of because of the nature of the bids that came in, Lynn Township's gonna get fiber to the home, which is perfect, that's what you want. Just because there was one company that wasn't, I don't think it was Mercury, it was another company, they're gonna do that, they did a bid, they got it. You know, it's just kind of happenstance, you know, and if we have an advisor, this guy's sharp, I need that kind of information. Eventually he's gonna stop talking to me, because I call him and ask him questions, right? He's gonna wanna charge me something.
You're an attorney, right? You know where to-
I know, hey man, you know, I know how it works.
First consultation.
Do we have any other Ways and Means Matters?
I have one, if I may. So I understand that there have been a couple of, so now two, unions that entered into their contracts in December who have requested wage studies since then. So within 45 days of it being accepted, now want to. So I think I'm going to have some questions about, is that a reopener? Do we wait until the next time it's in negotiations? Is there a reason why they signed off and did they not have that opportunity? Because we're not at the table in negotiations. So, because to me, it feels like if you agreed to the terms in December, I'm not sure what I should be doing in January and February. So I don't know. I mean, the question has come up, so I don't know if that's something that we're going to do.
That's a Gary
Officially,
question and a Carrie question.
That's kind of been my take on now hearing from a second that I just, it was done. I'm assuming negotiations happened. And I'm confused on our role 45 days later.
So typically, this is not something that would be addressed mid-union cycle. It's something that should be done during collective bargaining. Otherwise, we would pretty much always be collective bargaining. If there was an error or omission in the contract, certainly we sit down and correct it, or if something new comes up. The last time the county did a full wage study initiative, countywide, we did ask the unions if they would like to reopen those, to potentially get those settled early, but most of our contracts were on the cycle, so they were already coming due, so there wasn't really much to happen. But these type of wage items should have been brought forward during negotiations.
So the wage study that was done prior was a county initiative, countywide, while some of them were open.
What year was that, Georgia? You know?
5 years ago?
It was implemented in 2018.
Okay. So am I understanding the ask is to not have an internal, not an HR wage study? Are we being requested to consider a full wage study again, like was done in 18? I don't know. So I guess that's just, it came before us and now I've heard it another one.
I've never seen
so
that. How did that come in as an issue? I have not seen that. Is that an email or?
No,
Or a prosecutor deal? Oh, okay, that one.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was posed, it was asked. So
Well, I get that. No, I get that. I didn't know you were talking about that one.
Right, I'm sorry, yes.
What I did with that is, I'm in the courthouse a lot. One of the prosecutors had asked me, we're talking about the comparables. They didn't get the comparables. Well, Carrie had told me, well, they did get the comparables. And I told them I'd get them. So I did get the comparables and sent them off to them. Just I said, here they are. It's a little secret. And Carrie had a very well articulated memo to me on why they did what they did. I didn't share that, but that was basically based on these comparables, and so they got the information. I don't think there's.
From a process standpoint, is there anything for us to do or hear or act on between now and the next union?
I've not heard back from anybody. I mean, I know some of the people up there, and they say I sent it off to them. I didn't hear back. If they're satisfied with it, not satisfied with it. I didn't think there was a request as such. I didn't take it as a request.
That's it. Thanks.
Anything further on Other Ways and Means Matters? Can I have a motion to file information only?
So moved. Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Can I have a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Support. It's
Have a second.
all yours. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned.